Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Melissa Nolly. I work in the Office of Professional Education Services. Along with me today is Dr. Natalie Coleman, who also works in the Office of Professional Education Services. We are going to be recording this session, so if you or anyone else may be interested in viewing this at a later time, please go to our website for the Professional Development Services and you'll find the link there. Also, there is a chat feature available. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you should be able to see where it has the word more. If you click on that, you will be given access to the chat feature, which allows us to talk to a group of presenters or publicly. Also, there's a Q&A feature to ask questions to the presenter. Or you can raise your hand and talk using your microphone. But please note that the presenter has allotted time at the end of this session so that she'll be able to answer any of your questions that you may have. Also, at the end of this, we will be having a little drawing. So we ask that you please make sure that you continue and stay to the end. You may be a lucky winner today. So at this time, I would like to introduce to you Dr. Hartzell, Dr. Tara Lynn Hartzell. She is going to be presenting today to us about storytelling time with digital resources. Dr. Hartzell she has been working in the Department of Leadership Technology and Workforce Development at VSU and has been teaching at VSU since 2017 and typically teaches curriculum design and best practices as well as instructional technology courses. So now, Dr. Hartzell, I will turn the floor over to you.
Hello and good afternoon. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. All right, and I assume that everyone can see my screen. Okay, I'm seeing some thumbs up. Okay, well, welcome this afternoon. I'm going to be covering some information regarding digital storytelling, and I'm going to be talking about, the significance of this, how it can influence teaching and learning. And then I'm going to go review some tools, that might be useful. Some are free, some, you may have to pay. And then I'll kind of get a little bit into the process of developing digital stories. So I guess I'm just going to give an overview of what this, presentation is going to cover. So first, I'm going to define, what is multimedia or digital storytelling. And then I'm going to talk about, the significance, why, the question why should we tell stories digitally as teachers? Why would you want your students to create stories? As teachers, why would you want to create stories? And then I'll get into the applications for teaching and learning, because there are advantages of telling stories digitally. And then I'll get into some of the tools and software. And then at the end, I'll complete it with like designing, how to develop a story. What is the best process? You can't just jump in, and create a digital story. So there is a process to that. So to begin with, defining digital stories. I guess the best thing to do is kind of imagine a story that someone told you verbally, whether it was a family member or a friend or a teacher, and kind of think of that story in your mind. Okay, so you can kind of think of a story. I had many stories from my parents, and so I have one in my mind, and then kind of visualize how that person told a story to you. How did that person react? How was his or her voice? Did they, were they excited? And then think about the story. What was it? Open-ended story? Did it have a nice ending? Did it have a scary ending? Or was it left open? And then, now that you heard the story that person told you, think of it, how that story would look like if you put it in a digital format. What kind of images, would be there? what do you think would be some of the sounds, that would be integrated into that digital story? So taking a story that someone might have told you verbally, okay, in the old form, such as cave paintings, okay, oral, okay, oral histories, and then think about how you would use the older forms of storytelling and then put it in what I would say a modern day twist, a modern day spin. And so now, instead of hearing the story, now you might be able to see the story in action too. Before, you may just heard a person's voice. So now you can see the story with sound, with music. Before, you might have just heard a person who told you the story. Now you can kind of see it in motion. Okay, instead of seeing it in motion in your head, now you can see it, in motion with your eyes. Okay, so that's kind of like, the definition of storytelling or digital storytelling. And so you're kind of combining the art of telling stories, but you're using more than just a person's voice, maybe more than just a person's behavior at the time, more than just looking at a picture, like hieroglyphs. It's taking more of a multimedia form. It's becoming more 3D, okay? And so it's kind of like combining the art of just traditional storytelling and then just putting it in a different perspective. And of course, when you're using all these multimedia elements, it's going to make the story different, okay? So I can imagine some of the stories that my mother told me back in World War II, when she was in Japan. And I can kind of, envision some of the, stories that she just told me, like when we were sitting down, in the living room talking to each other. I can now kind of, like, if I put it in a digital format, probably would look a lot different, okay? And so really digital storytelling, you're taking, you're using technology-based tools. And in terms of digital storytelling, you can either do it individually or now you can do it collaboratively. So let's say I want to take my mother's stories and then put it in a digital format. I could do it with my sister. I could create something with my sister. I could create something with my friend, and so on. Okay, so it doesn't have to just be an individual effort. Usually stories can be from like 2 to 10 minutes. You don't want like a very long story, because of course you lose the viewer's attention. And it can be distributed through a variety of ways. So you can save it as a standalone video, and now you can give your video to somebody. You can put it on a website, or a social media site. Okay. And usually stories are going to revolve around a theme, okay, and they're going to take a particular viewpoint. So the storyteller, which is my mother, she would have a different perspective, but now I'm kind of adapting that story, putting it in a digital format. So of course I'm going to be putting in my perspectives in there. And stories could either be instructional, it could be persuasive, or it could be reflective. And so I got some examples there, telling a personal story about themselves. They might want to recount historical events that occurred, and so now they're telling a story through history, or it could just be a story about informing informing someone about a specific topic. So why should we create digital stories? Well, promotes critical thinking, okay? Because now you're utilizing more than just oral. You're using more than just typing text. And so you have to use different literacies, which I'm going to cover later. And so it requires a different mode of thinking. And it allows the people who are creating the stories, and allows them to now use different artifacts. The artifacts could either be visual, it could be auditory format, it could be an animation, type of format. And whoever is going to be creating the story now has to think about, well, how am I going to organize this? What's going to happen? What is the viewer going to see? What is the viewer going to hear? So all these decisions, have to kind of be made. It takes a lot. Okay, sometimes just telling a story verbally is easier. Okay, because now you gotta use different skills. You gotta like think differently. And so not only does it allow creators to express with words, but now they can either use their own voices like such as their own voice, in terms of narrating. Another voice would be their ways of thinking about how the story should be told. Okay, and then it allows people to experiment. Okay, so you can try something. Okay, that didn't work, and then they can like try again with something different. And so it's not sort of like a one-time event. Like if you're telling a story orally to a friend, that might just be a one-time opportunity. But when you're creating digital stories, you've got many possible ways of telling that story. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and you have to try it. You can pilot test your story on somebody, and if that's and what you think you wanted that other person to grasp, it didn't work, well, you can go back and revise your story. So how does it apply to teaching? Okay, so if you were a teacher, okay, and you require students to create stories, one thing would be that it allows the students to become creative. Okay, because it does utilize a lot of different tools, a lot of different perspectives. It kind of inspires narrative writing. Okay, because when you're writing a story, it's very different from what I would call more of like academic type writing, where you just create one sentence. So it does require a different format of writing. It does encourage learners to communicate, okay, with each other. Because they do have to utilize different types of media to develop their story. If you want your students to gain the 21st century skills, well, creating a story digitally will help them do that. Another thing about creating a story is about the ethics, like copyright, fair use. And so this is an opportunity to teach them about digital citizenship, which is definitely needed today, especially now when schools are like so reliant upon technology. And then also help students share their stories, to a larger audience, to their community. And so when I was talking about earlier, before you were just telling a story orally, someone, now creating a digital story is going to require a lot more, and it's not just telling anymore. And so there are different literacies that digital storytelling can help a person develop with. One thing would be like digital, okay, and so it's the ability to communicate, okay, gather information, the opportunity to reach out. Okay, so it's not just between two people anymore. Okay, so now you can expand. You can grow the audience. Okay, of course, technology. Okay, because digital storytelling does require multimedia and technology, and visual literacy. Okay, so visual literacy is understanding about how to put different components together that you want to convey the right message to. And then of course information, that's the ability to search for information, to locate, to gather them together, and to present. Okay, so the information is kind of tied to research. Okay, especially if you're creating a story that looks more of like a historical aspect. Okay, so you have to do some research. Writing is something that's definitely needed. Okay, and in a digital story, the writing is going to be a little bit different from sort of like writing in journals, where you can have paragraphs upon paragraphs of information. And digital storytelling is very different because you don't want to have that much writing, in your stories. Another, literacy would be organization, because you do have to manage that project because you've got media. I remember, like, when I was teaching pre-service teachers about creating digital stories, and they were, creating stories about themselves. I've had students who brought in like 130 photographs of their life, and of course they're not going to be able to use 130 photographs. Okay, so they do have to select, that they have to decide, okay, which is the most important type of artifact am I going to include. I can't include 30 different songs that I have. What am I going to use? And then, of course, presentation. Okay, so you got to think about how you're going to best present that story. And a lot of times it does take your organization. You got to have a beginning, middle, and end. Okay, that's typical of all stories, but the beginning, middle, and end is going to look different digitally. Okay, as opposed to on paper, as an oral history. And so it does include a lot of type of literacy, and the literacy leads to practical skills. Okay, so there's a lot of skills that come along with this. And not everybody have all these skills, or if they have skills, they may not be perfect on these skills. So they got to learn how to interview, okay, especially when they're going to include other people, like in the stories. Okay, and a lot of people say, okay, yeah, I can interview somebody, but that's not always the case. And so you got to pick up those skills or learn those skills. You got to have the interpersonal skills a lot of times. And I'm sure some people who do not have interpersonal skills. Okay, so when you're working with other people, you have to develop that. Then you have to also know how to problem solve. Okay, you need to be able to troubleshoot when things might not go right. And then in terms of assessments, you got to create your own work, but then at the same time, you're going to have to be receptive of critique that other people would give to your story. Okay, so and again, research. Okay, and then writing is another skill, organization, technology, and again, presentation. Okay, those are all skills that you're going to have to be able to do in order to create a story. Okay, so challenges. Okay, not everybody's good at telling a story. Okay, I'm not very good at telling a story. I don't like to talk about myself a lot of times, and so I stumble when I have to talk about myself. I struggle with storytelling, so not everybody is a great storyteller. Okay, not everybody can determine which is the best media to use. Okay, for example, like I was talking to you about, a person bringing in 120 photographs, and she wanted to include 120 photographs in a 10-minute video. That's not gonna go. Not everybody's aware of like copyright, intellectual property. Okay, so digital citizenship is very important. Some people may not have access to the technology or the resources. So a lot of schools have firewalls, and so some of the students may not be able to access certain software that I'm going to show you. And so those are some of the things that would become a challenge. And then at the end, it is time consuming. Okay, it is very different. Okay, so it does require all those skills that I was talking about earlier. And so it can be time consuming, and that's something that people have brought up as an issue, especially when they want to play with all the bells and whistles. And they're going to quickly learn that they can't include everything that they want to conclude. So okay, so this part I'm going to talk about some of the tools. Some of them are free. Okay, some you're going to have to pay. But I hope that you'll be able to use some of the ones that I talked about. Some of them are very simple. Some of them are like web-based, and some are a little bit more what I would call highly interactive. And when I say highly interactive, that means you can incorporate video. You can edit the video. You can add your own voice, to the story. Others will be more what I would call like a book. Okay, so it doesn't have as much opportunities, flexibilities. But depending upon the age of the learners, also depending upon your access to technology, sometimes you don't always need to have the highly interactive or the best tools. Okay, something simple will work as long as it achieves the goals that you want to achieve. So this first one is called Picklets. Okay, and this is it's nothing fancy. Okay, and it has been used a lot. I've actually heard teachers use this, and I think it's I personally think it's probably more for the younger ages. Although when I saw some of the examples that they have under their features areas, it looks probably more older, maybe like middle school, high school, maybe even adults. But I have this video. I guess I'll just go ahead and let the video go. But basically with Piclet, you choose a picture. Okay, so like I chose this dog, and you have two options. You can drag some of the words that you see on the bottom into the image. I like that feature where you can change past tense, future tense. Okay, I thought that was very handy. And so this is like one format that you can use. So it's more of like a drag and drop. And this will be good for somebody who might have a hard time coming up with words. Some people might need a help to get started. Some people like to click and drag things. Then the second mode is where people start typing. Okay, and so this is where a person might just say, okay, I don't want to do the click drag. I want, and I need more than just a few words. Okay, so this is the mode in which a person can actually type in paragraphs. Okay, so basically Piclet it's like I said, it's very simple. Okay, it's a simple tool. It's available online. It's free, and if you got an account, you can actually save your Piclet. And I'm going to kind of like let this go a little bit more because I'm going to show some of the other features in this. So I'm typing this in the video. Okay. And so you can see my mistakes going back. And so a person could get a series of images, like and then kind of create one. And then something on the site, they got types of Piclets. These are examples of what maybe a teacher could use in his or her classroom. And so it kind of just gives an idea about like how you could use Piclets to teach certain topics. And so I'm just kind of like clicking, on some of these. And then here are examples of Piclets that people have created. And then these are just the featured Piclets. So, I think in terms of Piclets, I think it's just a good, maybe get a person started. Okay. Start writing, maybe they can like they don't know where to start. So let's go ahead and find a picture, find a picture. Okay. Now based upon a picture, what can you, like what kind of story do you think you're seeing, from this picture? So that's Piclets. Okay. This one is Make Believe's Comic. Okay, and I kind of like this. it does, when I was making this video, it was a little slow. And so it's gonna kind of drag. But it's like a comic strip, okay? And this is free too. So you can create an account, and you can create these and you can save them. And you have up to 18 panels, okay? And then what you do is that you would start inserting characters. You would start inserting backgrounds and layouts. You would insert these bubbles, the thought bubbles, the speaking bubbles. And so this video is going through, and I'm just like throwing things there. And so I got a background, and then you can there's different characters that you can select. And then in terms of characters, you can change the direction. So there's my parrot. And see, these are the different call outs, the different thought bubbles. And so you can drag it there, and then you can type in your own words. And what I like about this is that you can save it. And then you can always come back later to edit it. Before, when they first came out, which was several years ago, they were kind of restricted on the number of panels. I think you can only had up to 6, but now you can have up to 18, which is great. Okay, because I found the 6 was a little restrictive. And I'm just going to let it go a little bit more, because at the end I thought it was. I'm going to show you something that I thought was kind of interesting. And you can later on print this out. Okay, so it'll become, I believe it's a PDF format. And so you can, print it out later, and you can share it, or you can post it online. So if you're familiar with comics, okay, you notice that the format's very similar. I think a lot of the younger students would like this. I think they would find this very interesting, as well as adults, because there are adults out there who like comics as well. And on this website, there are some political, comics that other people have made. And so you can just take a look at the sites, the site. So it's not just all for younger ages, but there are teacher lessons on here, which I think is very interesting. They didn't have those before. It was just a comic. And so they have resources for teachers. They got printables, they got comic, starters. And if you look there, they got ESOL, special needs. And so it is kind of targeted to also education. But one thing I'm going to kind of maybe just kind of skip a little bit here. Okay, one thing I thought was very interesting is that you can change the language. Now the language is only in the instructions, but if you have a Spanish speaker, you can actually change it to Spanish. Okay. In case you have an international, from China, okay, you can change it, to there. It doesn't change the text in the comics, which is unfortunate, but at least the instructions can be changed to a different language. Okay, so that would meet different student needs. So that's Make Believe Comics, and I suggest that you go check it out. This one's Pixton. And this one you do have to pay after 7 days. So my 7 days expired, so I couldn't really come back in here and add more to this little comic strip. But at least you saw something of what I created. So basically, this is it's somewhat like a comic strip, except you can add characters in there. You can add different backgrounds. And this is I created my first speech. Okay, so. And I did something really simple there, because like I said, it was only for 7 days. And if you buy, the package. I can't remember how much it is off the month. You'll just have to check. It's not like a lot. So let's say you only need it for a month. You might want to just go ahead and buy it for a month and create a bunch of stuff. And then you got it. Okay. And then one good thing is that as a teacher, you can actually create a classroom account, and then you can have, add your students there. Okay. So that's beneficial, and it's something different. So like I said, you may just want to do it for a month, and then just have your students play with it, for a month. And after that, and then if you really like it, you can go to your administrator and show them, wow, look at this tool. And then have some feedback from the students about how they liked it. But Pixton's there, okay, and they do have a special pricing for educators. Okay, this is another one. It does have free trial for teachers for 14 days. And it's very similar to Pixton. Okay, so you do have different slides there. And then you can add audio, and not necessarily, I'm not sure about video, but you can add audio, and you add the different characters, and it does have call out buttons on here. Okay, so storyboard that's a different one. Okay, Animoto, I like Animoto. The free version allows you to create 30-second videos. When they first came out, they had unlimited. Of course, when everything first comes out, they give you free for all, unlimited. And then all of a sudden, Animoto, it's restricted. And we're like, but it's 30 seconds. And so to try it out, and sometimes you may just need 30 seconds. It's just it may just be something for the students might have something fun to do. So I've got a video here. This is something that I created, and I use one of their templates. Okay, so that was 30 seconds. It's not very long, but like if you want to maybe introduce storytelling to students, but then also it touches all on those other literacies that I talked about, the skills, and if you do find it beneficial, you may just want to pay pay for a month. Okay, and then just have some some activities coming from that, or you would create videos for your students. Okay, they do have really nice templates like I showed you. That I think that was like a school education type template that you saw, and it was very easy to use. I just went in there and put some pictures in there, type in some text, and it was done. Okay. Movely. Okay, Movely's free for educators. You just need to create an account. If you're familiar with like Windows Movie Maker, iMovie, this is very similar to that, but it's online. Okay, so it's not like a software that you have to download to your devices. And so in here, they have different like templates. Okay, so like right here, start from scratch or from template, and then basically it's like importing pictures in there. You would import sound, music. One thing is that this is an editor, and so you can kind of like if you see the timeline on the bottom of the screen, you can actually designate how many seconds this is going to occur. When is it going to change? When are the slides going to change? And then like when are objects coming into the screen and things like that. And then you type in text, to kind of like do the transition, telling of the story and so on. But this is for, educators. So you can go ahead and get an educator account. And one good thing is I just, save there. So far, Movely is free. I can just imagine, one of these days they're going to like start charging. So, but then there'll be another tool that will come out that will be free. So that's one good thing, about a lot of this technology. Some come out, they're pilot testing, beta testing, so it's free. Then of course, as soon as more people, subscribe, they start charging. But then there's going to be another independent creator, that's going to create something similar. If you're, Windows, of course, you got the Movie Maker, Photo Story. You may be familiar with these tools. Photo Story is really just photos. Okay, that's basically all you can do with that. You would just put in together photos, and it maybe allow you some like transitions. It might allow you to add your voice there, but it's pretty much just like sort of like a slideshow format. The Movie Maker, which I have used in the past, and I'm a Windows person, so of course I like Movie Maker, but it does allow you to integrate the pictures like you see down there, sort of like Movely. You got the timeline, and so you can adjust like when images come in, when images leave. If you got music, you can actually determine how long your music's going to go. Like the click of a button, you can actually narrate, talk over, which is very handy. And I like Movie Maker, especially to tell the stories. But you cannot import 120 pictures into like a 5-minute video. Okay, so those literacies do come in handy, because you do have to teach people. Okay, so especially if this is new to them. For you Mac lovers out there, iMovie. Okay, I still like Windows Movie Maker better, but I have dabbled in iMovie. So, but it's there. Okay, and these are like free, software. You may have to download it. It used to come preloaded. Okay, that's the olden days. Nowadays they don't. So you're going to have to go and download the programs. So where to start? Okay, so there is a process. You have to come up with an idea, then you got to do the research, then you got to do the write. And if you look at these steps, remember when I was talking about the skills, when I was talking about the literacies, guess what? You can start plugging those in here. Okay, so it's not just a simple matter of like, okay, well, I'm gonna tell a story about my vacation. Okay, well, yeah, you can tell your story about the vacation, but what are you going to say? Like what are you going to include? You can't include 200 family photos, into your video. Like you have to make decisions. And then it can't just be photos and music. Okay, so you might have narration, but you can't just talk, offhand. It's got to be scripted, right? Okay, so there's the writing. Okay, so it utilizes so many different skills. It utilizes so many different literacies, and so that's a benefit of a digital storytelling. And then the major components, of course, includes like you do have to choose, or you may have to create. Okay, and then you have to think. You've got to create the story. You've got to have a beginning, middle, and end. And then what's going to happen in the beginning? What's going to happen in the middle? What's going to happen at the end? How do you want to end your story? And then you have decisions to make about how you're going to share this. Okay, so are you going to like save it as an MP4? Is it going to be like posted in your PowerPoint presentation? Is it going to be online? If it's a paper format, are you going to like just print it and just give it to somebody, or are you going to like put it as a PDF and put it on a website, or a blog? So many different decisions. Okay. And then you also have to just decide like who is going to receive this. Okay, so as students, you have to kind of be careful, like what you're going to post out there. Okay, you have to be careful. So here's digital citizenship, another component of digital citizenship. You can't have pictures of your friends in your story because they're minors, okay? And so you can't just, post it out there, okay? So there's a lot, there's a lot of things that's happening, and so a lot of things to consider. And then planning, okay? So these are storyboards, and I've got some example storyboards that I want to show you. And if you Google storyboards, there's a lot out there, but this kind of shows you the planning that goes into like a multimedia or digital story. And then I've actually had pre-service teachers, create, storyboards before, as well as graduate students, create storyboards when they're creating like any kind of video. And so these are some of the templates that I found online. And so some of them are very simple, like you would have, like you can sketch what, just hand sketch, whatever. And then you would like write in the possible dialogue, what kind of action is going to be there, what kind of sound, is going to be incorporated there. So this is another multimedia storyboard, and there's different formats. So you can make something that's very simple, or you can have something that has a lot in there. Okay, so if you kind of take a look at these samples, all right. And as you can tell, they're different, right? Okay, some is a little bit more like just, okay, here's the video and audio. And then basically that's all you need to consider. Some of them saying, well, now you got to determine whether it's going to be a close-up shot, or whether it's going to be sort of like a moody kind of, background, like you have to, everybody's got something a little bit different. And then these are some example, storyboards. So like this one's kind of simple. Okay, so it's stick people kind of thing, and then it just kind of like has some narration there. Okay, and then it kind of helps direct people. And so, and instead of just getting into Windows Movie Maker, okay, and then start putting your story together, you have to have some kind of plan. Otherwise, you're going to run into problems. And then this is another example. And if you notice, most of it is sketching. Okay, you don't have to get fancy. You don't have to put pictures in there. Okay, just scratch it out. Okay, it doesn't have to be nice looking. It doesn't have to be neat. Let's just say that. This one's a little bit neater. Okay, it's typed, but it doesn't have to be typed. Okay. And if you haven't heard of Canva, you may want to check out Canva. Okay, because I've had a lot of the internship students that I'm doing since I kind of got here at Valdosta State. A lot of the internship students as well as the graduate students love Canva. And Canva kind of started getting popularity maybe past 3-4 years. But they have these pre-made storyboards, okay, and so you can just download them, use them as templates, and then you can go in there and plug and play. Okay, just go ahead and go in there and type. But Canva does have other features too. So they got sort of like what I would call desktop publishing type opportunities for you to create posters. And then I believe they got some like web page elements in there too. I haven't explored Canva as much as I should have, but I do know that it does offer a lot. Okay, and right now it's free right now. And so get in there, do what you want, create all the materials that you want and save it. Okay, because they may not be free later on. Okay, so check out Canva. Okay. So overall, stories, digital stories. Why create them? Well, you can be creative, express yourself. You can develop your skills. You can develop your literacy. And then you can share them, share them to a larger audience rather than just, talking to your friends. Okay, so now it's being distributed, among the community. And so there's a lot of different, reasons, why you want to tell a story digitally. And then there's a lot of tools out there too. And so there are more than what I'm showing you here. I just kind of picked up the ones that are free. Okay, so I like that. But the ones that like you have to pay, they have been used, in education. So that's why I'm just showing them here. So this is digital storytelling. And so this is an overview of digital storytelling, some of the tools, and some of the reasons why. So I hope you can use, some of the information that I brought up here. And that's my email address in case, you have a question, or a Carolyn, what was that tool that you showed? What was it called? Just let me know. Okay. And thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Hartzell. That was a wonderful presentation. Does anybody have any questions? Anything that they want to post in the chat or in the Q&A? And don't forget, in just a couple minutes, we'll do the drawing. So stick around. And just in case you're wondering, we're going to be recording. Well, this has been recorded. And so we're going to be posting it just a couple days online on the Professional Education Services website. And so, if you missed part of this presentation, you can definitely go there and you can watch the rest of it there. Okay. Well, I don't see any questions. So, but you are welcome to post if you think of anything while I'm still talking. And so let me announce the 3 winners today. So it is going to be Becky. And I apologize, I don't know Becky's last name. So maybe Becky, if you could tell me in the Q&A what your last name is or your email address, then we'll be sure to get that prize to you. And then also the next winner is Sierra Corson. Sierra Corson. So she's our lovely winner next. And then the last winner is Venu Ainsley. So yes, congratulations to the 3 winners today. And thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Dr. Hartzell, for your wonderful presentation. And any last questions? Perfect. Thank you so much, Becky, sorry, excuse me. We've got your information. So thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.